Well, good morning, everyone. And as always, thank you all for joining me for Thursday, April the 16th, 2020. Again, thank you all for joining me. I am your host, Chi-Town Zone. And again, for those of you watching for the first time, do feel free to subscribe and be sure to hit that little bell so whenever a video is uploaded, you will be notified, guys, okay? But with that being said, we got so much to talk about, so I'm going to do my very best to try to keep this a little short, but if it goes longer than it's supposed to, I do apologize, guys. I want to try to get it all out of the way in one shot if we can, but we got so much to talk about. As I'm sure many of you have already, received your stimulus checks. Both me and my wife have received ours yesterday, so again, thank you so much, President Trump. I can assure you, come November, you will be getting my vote again. I can assure you of that. I think it was just yesterday, R&B rapper Kanye West has stated as well that he is planning to vote again for President Trump come November, guys. But I can almost hardly wait, to be quite honest. Things are getting really exciting, and many have already mentioned that Trump is absolutely going to beat Biden by a massive landslide. It doesn't matter what Obama has to say about Biden. It doesn't matter what Pocahontas has to say about Biden or any of them. Biden is finished, so it doesn't really matter. Given the guy, and I'm not trying to make fun of anybody that suffers from dementia. I mean, the guy doesn't even know where he is half the time. And I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that, you know, anybody will actually want to vote for somebody like that. I mean, the guy can't even tell the difference between his wife and his daughter. Whenever he was on stage, speaking at one of his rallies a while back or whatever, or he can't even remember where he even is half the time anymore. And what actually makes you think that anybody like that is capable of running our country, guys? I mean, really. I mean, these guys are absolutely nuts. I mean, this guy is known well for liking to sniff, young girls' hair or whatever, or many others as well. And he's even mentioned in one of his videos how he likes, young boys to rub his hairy legs. And I mean, you can't make this stuff up, guys. It's absolutely disgusting. But, moving on, guys, if you give me just a quick second here. We got so much to talk about again. But for those of you, before we go on any further, I know that there are some of you who have not received your stimulus checks, but keep in mind at the same time they have been saying, here locally as well, and both cable news networks, that anybody that has not, or should I say, anybody that filed and had not given their proper credentials to the IRS, such as bank routing number or whatever, you're expected to possibly receive your check sometime by late the end of the month, paper form through the mail, of course. But no worries, guys. Most of you that have not received anything should be getting something soon. However, the media and other outlets have stated that if you make over $99,000 a year or anything higher, you're not going to get anything. And of course, others have went on to state that even though you make that amount a year, you may get a little something. But we could only kind of wait and see how that all pans out right now, guys. But moving on, guys, this is out of Breitbart News, where, of course, I will be leaving links in the description box below, where the headline here reads, 5.2 million weekly jobless claims bring coronavirus total to 22 million jobs lost. Well, I mean, unfortunately, that is no surprise, speaking on myself as well, because unfortunately, I've been laid off since March 13th. Which fell on a Friday, and given the site I normally work at, we were supposed to be there till 9 p.m. the latest or whatever that night, and unfortunately we ended up closing at 5 o'clock right on the dot. I mean, right at the very last minute, and we ended up having to kind of, ask our patrons to, leave or whatever, and that they were going to be given a full refund or whatever, and we felt kind of bad about the whole situation, but, from that point on out, reality didn't really kick in, and so we had to turn in our badges that we no longer had jobs or whatever until, this whole thing blew over. And, we were only supposed to be out of work for 2 weeks, and then this whole thing and stay at home, a policy or whatever ended up getting implemented all the way until April 30th, which we are soon approaching that deadline. But, so many are already talking about possibly extending it into mid-May or later in the month of May or whatever. Our own mayor here as well has even predicted that this stay-at-home order may go longer than it's supposed to, but we're kind of hoping that it doesn't. Many have already given a lot of mixed reaction about it, claiming that if we open jobs now, we're only taking the risk of spreading this virus even more or whatever. I really don't know how to feel about the whole thing, but I do know one thing is for sure. I really need to get back to work already, guys. I don't know how you feel about it. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section below. What do you think about this? Should we stay closed longer? Because don't get mad at me. I'm ready to get back to work, guys. I've been out of work since March, and I'm ready to get back. But here again, the headline here reads, 5.2 million weekly job claims bring the coronavirus total to 22 million jobs lost. I mean, imagine that, guys. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But our thoughts and prayers are with everyone, and I'm asking you for your prayers as well as we, work effortlessly to get through these dark times right now. But the article here reads, the ranks of the unemployment swelled by millions last week. New applications for unemployment hit 5.245 million in the week ended April 11th. Labor Department data showed Thursday economists had a forecast around 5 million claims. I mean, just imagine that, guys. I mean, that's just terrible right now. And I mean, moving on. Last week's initially reported total of 6,606 million was revised up slightly to 6,615 million or whatever. Excuse me. For March 28th week. 6.9 million workers filed claims the week before 3.3 million. The new report brings the total of jobs lost to the coronavirus crisis to just over 22 million in the course of 4 weeks. I mean, that is just unbelievable, guys. But again, we're going to continue to monitor this as this number may actually climb a little bit higher by the time this is all said and done right now, because I'm sure there's others who are still waiting for their paperwork to process or whatever. As I know that there are others who have stated that they have yet to get anything, but they're still waiting right now. But guys, moving on, we just learned as well that Governor Cuomo of New York's wife has been diagnosed with COVID-19 as well. I will be leaving a link in regards to all of this where you can read into this yourselves as well, where the headline here reads, Chris Cuomo's wife, not Governor Cuomo, I apologize. Chris Cuomo's wife also receives coronavirus diagnosis. That's correct, guys. CNN, of course, fake news media, primetime anchor Chris Cuomo, who late in March disclosed he had tested positive for the Chinese coronavirus, said Wednesday his wife Christina has also been diagnosed with it. But again, guys, even though we know these people are fake news, we do not wish this on anybody, guys. I mean, this is a very serious, very dangerous virus, and we've seen what it's doing to hundreds of thousands of people already. Of course, in places like Italy and many other major cities, including here. And it's really unfortunate, guys. But here the article reads, the brother of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said late last month he was worried about infecting his wife and children after testing positive himself, as Breitbart News reported. The report here reads, I just hope I didn't give it to the kids and Christina. That would make me feel worse than the illness. He wrote at the time, of course, but it goes to further read, he continued working on air from home, choosing to reveal the latest diagnosis in his family during a live interview with his brother. It's very rare for a family to be one and done, the 49-year father of 3 said on his show, Cuomo Primetime, and Christina now has COVID. Of course, as the article reads, guys. But again, even though we know CNN is fake news media and we know that they have an agenda against President Trump and anyone else that supports him, do we wish harm on anyone? Absolutely not, guys, because that would be absolutely hypocritical of us to wish harm on someone who just constantly spreads lies about, President Trump and his administration and anyone else that supports him, and, constantly puts out this nonsense that Trump is a racist or whatever the case might be, and constantly race baits, and then claims that they don't, guys. But this is the end results, guys. And of course, our prayers are with Chris Cuomo and of course his wife as well at this time, and their 3 children. But moving on, guys. Again, I will be leaving links in regards to all of this as well. But let me see what else we have here. I think I seen an article just not too long ago where Nancy Pelosi is now scolding President Trump for his name being on the stimulus checks. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up, guys. Let me see, what do we have here? Again, where the headline here reads, excuse me one second, guys. The headline here reads, Pelosi shameful, Trump's name appearing on stimulus checks. Well, you cannot make this stuff up, you guys. Of course, many of you remember it was during one of President Trump's State of the Union speeches. It was Nancy Pelosi herself who disgracefully ripped up President Trump's copy of the State of the Union. I mean, it was a complete smack to the face of everyone there President Trump spoke of, and so on. And I mean, it's absolutely disgraceful what Pelosi and both Chuck Schumer are doing and continuing to do, along with Maxine Waters and so many others, guys. I mean, the list just goes on. But moving on, guys, the article here reads, Wednesday on CNN's The Lead, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said it was shameful, of course shameful, that President Trump's name will appear on the coronavirus stimulus checks. Well, gee, I wonder why that is. When it was President Trump who worked to get these stimulus checks to millions of the American people who are out of work right now. But it's shameful? I mean, it just doesn't fit your narrative that President Trump is doing a way better job than the previous one. He is working for the American people to try to get us back on our feet. I mean, get this economy back up and running again. And, we got many governors now talking about that they're the ones in charge. And, many can argue that, yes, they are the ones in charge of opening the economy and getting these jobs back open or whatever. And, you got to understand, President Trump only means well because, many of us need to get back to work. I mean, we have families to feed. I mean, we can't find ourselves living off of unemployment, at least for another month or so because of this pandemic. I mean, but as I've stated yesterday, our own governor here has stated that there is a bend in the curve and we are doing what we can to. We are seeing a slight dip in the numbers. But again, moving on, guys, where the article further reads, host Jake Tapper asked, what's your take on President Trump's name appearing on the stimulus checks? Where, of course, he asked Nancy Pelosi this, and where Pelosi went on to state, shameful. In other words, people are really just desperate to get a check. Well, of course, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, we need to get paid somehow. But, I mean, funny how it is, they're all for this free stuff and free college tuition for all and free healthcare for all. But it's, it's shameful that people want stimulus checks. I mean, come on, this is our tax money. We deserve this money to be able to put food on our table and keep our rent and our bills in check. Even though our governor here and many others around the world have put freezes on, evictions and things, it doesn't mean that landlords will not come after you hard. Because two or whatever, landlords got bills and rent that they have to pay themselves, just for some of you that already know. And I mean, either way, we need to pay our own bills and rent ourselves to stay on our feet, guys. But she continued, let me put it in perspective. The 3 things that really anger the American people, there are others, but 3 of them are, 1, that our first responders, our healthcare workers, our police and fire, all of the people in food and other essential workers do not have the equipment that they need to keep themselves safe as they manage to attend to the needs of others, that they do not have the ventilators and other equipment to save lives that are in their charge. That's 1. But of course, guys, moving on for the sake of time, I will be leaving links again in the description box below. But again, Nancy, how dare you sit there and be, talk about that, we should be ashamed of ourselves that we wanted these stimulus checks and that President Trump put his name on a check that he worked to get into the hands of the American people. If anything, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. But of course, moving on, guys. It's really a terrible situation with everything that is happening right now, and we can only, again, keep everyone affected by this one way or another, whether it's our essential workers who are being forced to work right now, in our prayers, including our first responders as well, where again, it is with sad regret that we bring to you another story where we have learned just yesterday evening that a second Chicago fireman has lost his life. Again, a 30-year veteran of the Chicago Fire Department. Again, but our thoughts and prayers are with him, his department, and his family again, guys. But this is definitely a terrible situation. I would urge the American people, again, not to panic, but again, not to take precaution. Please do take precaution, guys, but because it is extremely important that we do so, because this is a real virus and it is taking people's lives. But again, we can only keep all of them in our prayers, guys, as we continue to, do our very best to monitor this, because there is so much going on right now around the world with this virus. And again, we can only do our best to continue to keep an eye on things. But again, guys, as I've stated before, it's all about common sense. I mean, I've been to the grocery store so many times. I've been there at times where my face was not even covered, or I didn't even have gloves because I had no way of finding any of it. So, whenever I go now, speaking of which, my wife actually had to order some things via Amazon. She had to order a couple bottles of Clorox wipes or whatever, including some gloves. And then, of course, whenever we go out, we just ended up using bandanas to cover our faces or whatever we can. But with that being said, guys, we're going to continue to keep our eyes on this, but you do not want to miss this, guys. For those of you watching again for the first time, do feel free to subscribe and be sure to hit that little bell. And with that being said, again, I am your host, Chi-Town Zone. Stay tuned. God bless, and I'll be with you soon.